The number everyone has been waiting for months on end is finally out. For months, people have been asking how much of the demonetized currency actually came back, and that answer was out today. The RBI in its annual report revealed that pretty much 99% of all the notes that were demonetized on the 8th of November 2016 are back. That has led to the obvious question that did demonetization actually achieve what it set out to, or what its initial targets were? We're discussing that today, and of course the political angle to it, because like it or not, demonetization has been and has become a political subject over time. Well, joining me in this conversation today is my colleague Dugal. We also have a BJP spokesperson GVL Narsimha Rao on the phone, and we're going to be joined shortly by a Congress Member of Parliament Rajeev Gowda. But before we start, I just want to get the facts in with Ira. Ira, if you can just sum up for us the key figures that came up in the RBI report, because I recall every credit policy, everyone's, at least the initial few people were asking, have you finished counting the notes? Have you finished counting the notes? And the RBI has finally finished counting the notes. What does that number tell us?
So I think there are just three numbers to remember. What came out in the annual report today is that 15.28 lakh crore of specified bank notes, which is the 500 and the 1,000 rupee notes, were brought back into the system. That is until the 30th of June. The currency that was withdrawn from the system on the 8th of November was 15.45 lakh crore. So essentially you do the math, and about 99% of the currency that was withdrawn has been returned to the system. The currency in circulation before demonetization was announced was 17.97 lakh crore. So actually not that third number, but the first two numbers are the ones which are relevant. Basically, it tells you that almost all the currency that was withdrawn came back into the system. That's where the debate comes in, whether it's good, bad, and what it really reflects. And that I'm sure we'll pick up with our guests.
No, sure. But the number one question before we go to our political guests is, which everyone's been asking, where is the black money? Now, there was this assumption that whatever doesn't come back is black money. So that was not really stated anywhere, was it?
There was no number on black money. There cannot be a number on black money. There was a general assumption going into this that there is about a 25% of the economy which would be quote unquote black. But there are a bunch of fallacies in that. If you look at the stock of black money, I don't think anybody can argue that people who have generated black money are sitting on that black money in cash. That black money may have been generated in cash, but it then finds its way into gold, into real estate, into foreign assets. So, the stock of black money, what proportion of it was actually lying in cash was probably very, very small. Nobody has a fix on these numbers. So what the government was perhaps hoping is that the stock which was lying in cash actually gets extinguished. Maybe that could have been 2 lakh crore, 3 lakh crore. Those were the numbers, completely random numbers doing the rounds from economists, and then you hit the flow of black money by bringing in GST, etc. Now, what is being argued currently, now that we have these numbers and now that we know that 99% of the currency is returned, is that you have not been able to make a dent in that stock of black money. So what was the point? It's a fair question to ask.
Okay, let's put that question in fact to Mr. GVL Narsimha Rao. Thank you for joining us on BloombergQuint, sir. We heard Finance Minister Arun Jaitley a little while earlier saying that the amount of money that didn't come back was never the real number about how much black money there was. It was all about formalizing the economy. Then did we have to have demonetization to achieve that purpose?
Absolutely. Because out of this 15.44 lakh crores that was in circulation, a lot of that money did not even reach the banks ever. It was in circulation only in the form of cash. And to really identify who is holding this currency currently, so I think this exercise has helped us to really know who has deposited this money, and do they have the means and the sources to really justify the kind of cash deposits that they made into the bank. And if you recall what the Honorable Prime Minister said in his Independence Day speech, a significant part of this amount that has been deposited into the bank has already been identified as suspicious deposits, and there is income tax department has been after them. Lakhs of such people have been given notices. And all those who cannot.
Mr. GVL Narsimha Rao, I'm just going to come in there with another question. We're also welcoming Congress Member of Parliament, Senior Leader Rajeev Gowda onto the debate. But Mr. GVL Narsimha Rao, effectively what you have just told us is that demonetization helped the income tax department get a hold possibly of those who had black money because they were forced to put it in banks. You would agree that it is not like the vast majority of Indians were hoarding black money, but the vast majority of Indians did suffer. Hence, I repeat my question. Was this the only way?
This was the only way. Otherwise, how do you really know who is really holding on to how much of cash? Having anything in cash was not illegal. It was not a crime. But everyone knew a large part of our economy was parallel economy, and 6-7 decades of this kind of economy, we actually, in our consciousness, we have the whole country. The general mindset was, I think it's okay not to pay taxes. There is no cost to if you are dishonest with your income. If you do not pay taxes, it doesn't cost you money. It doesn't cost you anything. So that entire mindset has been given a body blow. And the fact that your tax base, the direct income tax base has risen by over 90 lakh people in just 1 year, clearly establishes the fact that people have now come to realize it really costs to be corrupt. It costs to be dishonest. Let me
get that point and that question across to Mr. Rajeev Gowda. Welcome, sir, to BloombergQuint. This has given a body blow, says the BJP. Demonetization gave a body blow to the mindset that it pays to be corrupt. It has led to formalizing the economy, and that the fact that only 17,000 crores did not come back is really irrelevant. What is your take on that argument, sir?
This demonetization was, and as badly implemented as the demonetization move was, is what you're seeing now is the actual result of it all. Now, basically, if you wanted to go after black money, you have to look at where all that black money was. Some huge portion of it was already in the state and it been invested elsewhere. So we're not even going after the entire quantum of money that had evaded taxes. Right now, then the cash that you went after. Now, the income tax department does have the capacity to pursue and raid and do all kinds of things to any business that they think is indulging in suspicious activity. And there are also other methods of going after black money and stemming it at its source. You don't have to get the whole economy to come to a standstill. In all these kinds of moves, there is something called cost-benefit analysis. Right? What has been the cost of demonetization to the larger economic growth? We've lost more than 1 to 2% of economic growth as a result of this, which is 150,000 crores worth of potential income that did not come in to you and me and to everybody in this country. Right? So that is that large, huge, loss that is foregone. Then Mr. Jaitley, who will be looking at his returns, right, and looking at the numbers of how much money he is getting in. Every year, the RBI gives a dividend to the government. This year, it was short by 35,000 crores, right? And, so why did that happen? That's because of demonetization, because RBI had to pay banks the reverse repo rate, right, interest and things like that. So he's going to get that much less. That's another huge cost. Okay, to the government as a result of this. Think about those 100 and odd people who died, right, as a result of this. The man days lost. This is just some kind of a it was all Prime Minister Modi satisfying some ego of his, taking making some massive move.
Mr. Gowda,
black money.
Mr. Gowda, may I just interrupt you?
Formalization. We are moving towards formalization anyway. There's going to be more credit cards, there's going to be more e-commerce, all these sorts of things would have brought us closer to formalization in a more gradual way.
True. Mr. Gowda, if I could just interrupt you. Mr. Gowda, sorry to interrupt you, sir. This is Ira joining the discussion. I'll come to formalization in a minute. But I wanted to pick on that point of the cost-benefit analysis that you were speaking of and ask you, or rather request you to put on your hat as a former member or director on the Central Board of the Reserve Bank of India. Was it not the job of the RBI and the Central Board to do that cost-benefit analysis? And if they found that it was not going to pay off, then put their foot down. I mean, I can completely understand that this is a political, decision, and the RBI board perhaps just rubber stamped it. But they are a board; they could have refused to rubber stamp it, sir.
See, I was not part of that board, so all I can say is, when you look at costs and benefits, it's not only about numbers; it's also the incalculable damage to institutions. Right? This country, you have to nurture institutions and ensure that, especially something like the Reserve Bank of India, which is supposed to play a very, very central role in monetary policy, has earned respect as a professional organization over the decades. We basically turned it into a rubber stamp. It turned it into a laughing stock. Right? Over the last few months, everybody's been laughing at the RBI, saying they're still counting notes. Right? And some of the other duties of the RBI to ensure that counterfeit currency is kept out in the kind of mad rush by which black money was converted to white, probably counterfeit money also came back into the system. The whole role of the RBI was reduced to nothing as a result of this ill-conceived and ill-implemented move.
Let's get Mr. GVL Narsimha Rao into the debate and a chance to respond. Mr. Rao, if you've been able to hear the counter-arguments that Rajeev Gowda has put forward, one of them is the cost-benefit analysis in hindsight, and comes back to the point I was making. Was it worth all the pain that the common Indian went through? Did it effectively cost the exchequer more to implement and then print new currency rather than what was got in return in the final analysis?
No, I think, Tamanna, the problem that most people would be making here is to really take a very short-term and a very narrow view of the entire impact of this, the import of this, the policy announcement. I think when this has helped you really avoiding your tax base, this is something that you have not been able to do for years, for decades. I think you have given a complete momentum to your to widen tax base. Your revenues are substantially up, both the direct taxes and even indirect taxes, and you've been able to bring about a change in the mindset of the people, which was not happening for a very long time. In this country, I think you have been reporting for business for a long time. The general mindset is only, I think, people who cannot avoid, they pay taxes. I think be it the corporates, be it individuals, the instinctive idea is to how to evade taxes or how to really resort to some kind of a shortcut not to pay taxes. I think this has given a complete people who have, some of them who have been successful also possibly in converting money, have done this at a huge cost, done it at a huge pain. And now people understand. I think, yes, Sarkar, Modi ji ka rehte hue, I think you cannot get away indulging in tax cheating.
No,
in the consciousness of every individual today. So this has this will take generations for a country to achieve this kind of a transformation in your thinking. For 70 years, the people have been ingrained with this kind of thinking. Politicians are corrupt, bureaucrats are corrupt, and it's okay if you can get away, you can bribe somebody or other and avoid paying taxes. This has been the mindset in this country, and I'm sure you cannot deny that this perception existed in this country for such a long time.
Okay, but I don't know if that perception and corruption has ended or people now love paying their taxes. I don't know about that, but I'm going to take that counterpoint to Rajeev Gowda. And Arun Jaitley, Finance Minister, also made this point, Mr. Gowda. Just because money has come back into the banking system doesn't mean people have gotten away with having black money, is the counter argument that the Income Tax Department, the CBDT, has identified a large number of accounts where deposits don't match with known sources of income and are acting against them. Didn't demonetization help, bring all of those accounts into the dragnet?
See, the exact point I was making was, 150,000 crores, a lakh crores or whatever of, income foregone in the informal economy, and a large number of poor people, agriculturists, etc., hurt by this because you want to try and expand your tax base. Right? Okay, so that the cost-benefit analysis just doesn't work, whether it is in the short term or in the long term. The lowering of growth is going to hurt on a continuous basis. Anyway, let's leave that. The other point he was making, that those who converted their money also had to pay a huge amount extra, right? So what he's basically saying, Narsimha, here, is that there was a lot of black money that got converted to white. There was people paid. So you created a whole new set of corrupt people who took bribes in the banking system to convert back to white. So, so now you have not eliminated corruption. You created a whole new class of corrupt people. And that's a triumph of demonetization from together here. All right. So the basic thing is, at the end of this whole exercise, those who had we used to evade taxes, also managed to convert the black to white, and as a result are now going to say laugh at any government measure which is trying to address this whole problem at its roots, and say, look, if you cannot even pull this off, anyone can get away with anything in this country, and they're laughing all the way to the bank. So basically, this has been a monumental failure. To quote Dr. Manmohan Singh, and of course, it's also a fair and lovely scheme to quote Rahul Gandhi to convert black to white. The vast majority have managed to do that, and we will see whoever those accounts are. Let us see, this is premature, how many of those are actually going to be targeted, and how much is going to be extracted from them in the form of black money or fines or anything like that. They'll all find ways to justify how they got that money. And so you just created a whole new industry of corrupt professionals in the banking system and the accounting other supporting system, probably in the tax system itself. So just, the whole episode, unfortunately, is something that has hurt the India economy dramatically, and probably just, I don't know who advised Mr. Modi, but he's destroyed institutions like the RBI and their credibility, and really slowed down the economy, killed people, 100-odd people who died, that's all we know.
Mr. Gowda?
Farmers, urban labor who had to move back to villages, hopes of youngsters and their future destroyed.
Right. Mr. Gowda, if I could just interrupt there, sir, actually, if you look at this a little dispassionately, what was one of the largest events to hit the economy, is essentially becoming a non-event. I know you're talking about the short-term impact that was seen, and nobody is justifying any of that. But at the end of the day, it did something to hurt the economy in Q4. Tomorrow we'll get GDP numbers. We'll probably, hopefully, start to see some normalization. So in terms of the economic hit, it was a short-term hit which will start to normalize, which was always what was expected. It's done very little to kill the stock of black money, as you were saying. GST will probably have a bigger impact in killing the flow of black money. So if you look at it very dispassionately and perhaps, depoliticize it a little bit, is it not a bit of a non-event at the end of the day?
Well, but a non-event at what cost? Right? So that's exactly what we were saying. First, the stock of black money itself is not all in cash. A lot of people and the informal economy deal with cash, and you're just hurting them. We said that right up front. The second thing that you're pointing out, GST was coming in, and you're going to be able to track all the people and their transactions. It will be much harder to evade taxes under that new scheme. And then, of course, this point that that we were moving towards, e-commerce and fintech and all these moves that were going to move us closer to the cashless economy anyway. More transactions.
I want to pick up that key point.
It's going to happen anyway.
Okay. So obviously, Mr. Rajeev Gowda making the point that all of this was going to happen anyway. There was no need for demonetization. But Mr. GVL Narsimha Rao last and I think crucial question to actually at the end of the day prove and justify that this was all worth it. Would it be important for us to eventually have a clear picture of how much black money was caught through the banking system even after it came in? Okay, I don't have Mr. GVL Narsimha Rao, and we'll leave it at that. But actually, I would put that question to Rajeev Gowda. Would that figure be the important one, Mr. Gowda? Because you would have to give the government this much, that they did shake up the system. It forced more people to open bank accounts, even at a huge cost. It got more money into the system. Will the proof of its efficacy be in how much black money or unaccounted wealth is actually caught, even if it's come back into the banking system?
Yes, absolutely. Then you get a much clearer picture. But the basic point is, even there, right, you look at that Krishi Kalyan Cess or whatever, that other program that they came up with, where they were going to, that was another outlet where black could be converted to white at some very hefty 50% premium, things like that, 50% tax. That's been a total failure. So unless they managed, and think about now what all, does the income tax department have the manpower to go after all these questionable accounts in the thorough manner that they need to? How long will this take? And what else will suffer as a result of that? So just think about it. I mean, that's why I'm not going to give you, an answer on that until we know the magnitude of the black money that's actually been pegged and tracked down. So, but the whole thing, you said shake up the system for that. This is basically like assaulting, lynching. That's what this was. It was an example of lynching the economy in order to try and get some particular outcome, which was chimerical. Okay. So that's probably what's going on.
Okay, strong was there from the Congress MP Rajeev Gowda saying it was a lynching of the economy. At the end of the day, though, Ira, the point you were making that the economy did show resilience. There were doomsday prediction of a 2% GDP fall. We haven't seen that. We've seen a pickup. More money has come into the system, but at what cost? Today, the government is, of course, trying to justify demonetization. But did it really do what it set out to do? I think those answers are still awaiting us.
Yes, but I mean, I think this is at least my editorial take, that if you look at it dispassionately, it ended up being this big event, which was essentially a non-event. It did a little bit here, a little bit there. It hurt the economy a little. It brought a little more cash into the formal system, but did it move the needle in any way? No.
Okay, well, even as we look at it dispassionately, let's not forget the hours in the ATM queues. We tend to forget that pain. We're a resilient lot, but people did go through a lot of pain, and that's why probably they're asking today that was it all worth it. So thank you so much for joining us on this special broadcast. Demonetization, big economic event, of course, with political impact as well.